its men. A TV program for the troops that starts like a pop video and stars Dana Borisova, the army's favorite pin-up. The army is trying to shut out the bitterness of defeat in Chechnya and the present desperate cash crisis, which according to some senior officers threatens its very existence. 58th Army is Russia's largest army group. It fought in Chechnya and it's now fighting another battle inside its own ranks, a battle against crumbling equipment and sagging morale. The army's commander is General Gennady Troshev. He took us on a lightning inspection tour of what are now its forward positions near Chechnya. He didn't like what he found.
Да вы так все и пропустите на свете.
Guards were not at their posts. The unit's guns were dirty. The general gave one tank crew 20 seconds to start it up. They couldn't do it. The crisis here at 58th Army is the same crisis that now grips virtually all of Russia's armed forces. Wages unpaid, food rations poor or in many cases virtually non-existent. Military housing projects halted because the money to finish them has mysteriously disappeared. And above all, there's a sense of bewilderment as this once mighty military machine sinks into apathy and frequently despair. For one army mother, that despair has meant the loss of her son. He was one of 3 officers from 58th Army who have committed suicide in the last 2 months. In each case, the reason seems to have been the same. The men had not been paid and could not provide for their families. On this spot, in front of the commanding general's office, one of them, a lieutenant colonel, blew himself to pieces with a hand grenade. But General Troshev is sparing with his sympathy.
Unfortunately, there are a few weak, vulnerable people who commit suicide. There are wage arrears, housing problems, family rows. All this leads people to kill themselves.
While the most senior officers use army funds and labor to build themselves luxury homes, their subordinates live, if they're lucky, in crumbling, dirty housing blocks. Dinner for the conscripts is pickled cucumber and porridge. The army which once terrified the West can now see little further than the next meal. Worried by unrest in the military, Boris Yeltsin has ordered back wages to be paid urgently, and he's supporting plans for sweeping reform which would slash troop strength by 500,000 men and retire more than 500 generals.
The different branches of the armed forces have no proper chain of command. Everyone's a general. No one knows who's in charge.
Determined to see the bright side, Army Television has been sponsoring beauty contests with Dana Borisova, the star hostess. But it will take more than pretty girls in short skirts to put the pride back into what was once the most powerful army on earth. Julian Mannion, News at 10, Moscow.
Tonight's soccer news, the Newcastle and England striker Les Ferdinand is on his way to Tottenham Hotspur. Spurs confirmed tonight they'd agreed a price.
Both of the floods even ripped up roads. It's the remnants of Hurricane Danny, which blew across the southern United States last week, that have caused the floods. But perhaps the most miraculous escape from the raging waters was by the crew of this train. Its carriages suspended precariously above a swollen river, they were evacuated. Minutes later, the sandbank below crumbled away completely, sending train and track plunging into the ravine. But there was no such lucky escape from the floodwaters for others, and as the clean-up begins, the forecast is for more rain. Helen Wright, News at 10.
That's News at 10.